Over 15 million Americans have already tried Ozempic, and with 25,000 people being prescribed it every day, that number is expected to double in less than 5 years. I'm not here to tell you that Ozempic doesn't work, but I am here to tell you that there is another way. Because the problem with Ozempic is that once you start taking it, you're stuck on it for life unless you fix the habits that caused the weight gain in the first place. So today I'm going to show you how to lose fat so fast that it feels like Ozempic, without the needles, side effects, or rebound weight gain. Ozempic has quickly gained a reputation as a miracle drug. It exploded in popularity almost overnight, not because of fancy marketing, but because people are seeing the scales go down faster than ever. But Ozempic wasn't originally designed as a weight loss drug. When it was first brought to market, Ozempic's purpose was to help diabetics control their blood sugar levels. But when doctors started noticing rapid weight loss in patients, it took off as a fat loss solution too. Ozempic works in 3 ways. Firstly, it suppresses your appetite by delaying stomach emptying. Second, it helps to regulate your blood sugar so you get fewer crashes and spikes. And third, it reduces reward-seeking behavior, so junk food becomes far less tempting. So overall, sounds pretty good, right? But here's what they don't tell you. The side effects range from nausea, bloating, muscle loss, and in some cases, full gastrointestinal shutdown. But what's worse is that the second you stop taking it, your appetite comes back, your cravings come back, and with that, the weight comes back on fast. Ozempic is like using a cheat code in a video game. Sure, you skip the grind, but you don't actually learn the game. You don't build the skills, the habits, or the strength to win without the hack. And this is how you end up stuck, paying hundreds or even thousands of dollars a year to keep playing the game on easy mode. But the good news? You can replicate the results of Ozempic naturally. And it's much easier than you think once you know what's stopping you. You see, what stops most guys isn't a lack of effort. It's trying to fix the symptom and not the system. They go all in on a diet for a few weeks, but they don't address the root cause, their habits, their environment, their identity. So they end up right back where they started. So instead of chasing shortcuts, let me show you how to build the system, the one that actually works and gets faster and easier over time. Because once you understand this next part, I promise you, fat loss becomes simple. I call it the fat loss flywheel. You see, a flywheel takes effort to get moving, but once it's spinning, it becomes self-reinforcing. And that's exactly how sustainable fat loss works. At first, you're forcing it, but then it starts working for you. The problem is that most guys never get past the first push. They try to overhaul everything at once or copy someone else's plan that doesn't fit their life. They expect it to feel easy in week 1, but it's not supposed to feel easy. It's supposed to feel worth it. And trust me, just know that the more effort you put in at the beginning, the easier it's going to get over time. Remember, it's a flywheel. That's the whole point. And also, just use some common sense. If this was easy, everybody would do it. In an ideal world, we'd all be walking around with 6-packs and billions of dollars in the bank, wouldn't we? This is supposed to be hard. And anyone who tells you it's easy is full of shit. But if you do this properly, you can drop 10 to 15 pounds in the next 6 to 8 weeks without feeling like you're starving and without destroying your energy. So let's start that flywheel. First and foremost, you have to recognize that fat loss starts in your head. You've got to decide that you're not going back to the old you, that this isn't just a diet, it's a lifestyle shift. Because if you keep doing what you've been doing, nothing is going to change. In fact, it might even get worse. You've got to get uncomfortable on purpose. That means being intentional. You have to make conscious changes. Saying no when you used to say yes. Doing things that feel hard until they don't. At first, it's like learning to drive a manual car. You stall, you overthink everything. There's a clutch, there's gear sticks, there's 3 mirrors. What's going on here? It's all pretty damn overwhelming, right? But you keep at it, and one day, just clicks. Then you're shifting gears without even thinking about it. Same thing here. When you start, expect some resistance. You have to remember, your brain's primary job is to keep you alive, is to keep you in a state of homeostasis, which is a very long-winded scientific word for staying the same. Your brain doesn't actually care that you're slowly killing yourself as long as you're alive. It's thinking in the here and now, not 5, 10 years down the line. So right now, every single decision is going to feel forced. But that's where it comes back to being intentional and conscious. And when you give this time, all of it becomes second nature. Like I said a couple of minutes ago, every effort now makes it easier later. And if you keep going every single day, is going to get a little bit easier. So even though I know you want to jump in the deep end with the workouts and the nutrition and the crazy diets, you've got to start up here. Once you've got that nailed, the next most important part is to sort out your nutrition. Now, I'm not saying that diets don't work, but every single fat loss diet, whether it's keto, intermittent fasting, low carb, vegan, carnivore, the list goes on, they all work for one reason. They create a calorie deficit where you're eating and drinking, consuming, in other words, fewer calories than you are burning, which forces your body to use the stored fat as fuel. And once you understand that, you don't need a restrictive diet, because why would you want to make it harder than it has to be? Why would you cut out stuff that you enjoy, where as long as you just stick to your calories, you can lose fat as much as you want? But here's the thing. If you want to lose fat fast, you're going to need to be in an aggressive deficit. So what you're going to want to do is take your goal body weight, not your current body weight, your goal body weight in pounds, multiply that by 12, and then subtract 250. Now, this is going to put you in roughly a 750 calorie daily deficit. And as a result of that, you can expect to lose anything from 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds every single week. So let's say my goal body weight was 180 pounds. I would do 180 times by 12, which is 2,160. And then I would minus 250, which gives me a calorie target of 1,910. So I would just round it down to 1,900. But what I would then do, because no 2 days are the same, is multiply that 1,900 by 7, because now you have a weekly calorie budget, which comes out to 13,300. And that's particularly important when you're in an aggressive deficit. You're going to go crazy if you try to hit the same calorie number every single day. So you want to zoom out and look at it over the course of a whole week, because that's going to give you a lot more freedom and a lot more flexibility. Now you can have low calorie days when you're not feeling as stressed or you don't have any social occasions, but it also leaves room for high calorie days at the weekends where you want to go out, socialize with friends, or when you're having a particularly stressful day. Because remember, we're not looking to chase shortcuts here. We're not looking for quick fixes. We're looking for a lifestyle shift. So what you really want is a strategy. This strategy gives you a lot more freedom and a lot more flexibility. Then what you want to do is apply some simple principles to make it easier for yourself. The first of which is to build your meals around PFW, protein, fiber, water. Protein to build and preserve muscle and to control your appetite, which is pretty much exactly what Ozempic does. Fiber to keep you full, and water to stay hydrated, which we'll come on and talk about in a second, and to regulate your hunger as well. You want to aim for simple meals that are fast to make with few ingredients. You don't need 37 spices and a 12-step meal prep. You need fuel that works. Speaking of fuel, under no circumstances do you want to drop your carbs too low. This is about cleaning up your diet rather than restricting it. I really wish I had a megaphone so that the people at the back could hear this. Carbs are fuel. They power your training, your brain, and your willpower. You don't want to crash your metabolism just so that you can see the scales move faster for the first 2 weeks. And lastly, and probably most importantly, make sure that you're including food that you enjoy every single day. I'm a huge advocate of what we call the 80-20 rule, where you're eating 80% of your food from whole, single ingredient, nutrient-dense food, but leaving room for 20% of the food that you love and look forward to that gives you mini diet breaks every single day. Because that 20% is going to keep this 80% far more sustainable. And ultimately, that is what keeps this flywheel spinning. But here's the part everybody forgets. Fat loss is a maths equation, and energy balance has two sides, calories in and calories out. Eating slightly less obviously helps, but moving more is how you create that gap. And that gap is what drives faster results. But I am not talking about soul-crushing, boring, torturous cardio. I'm talking about NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is just a fancy way of saying walk more, take the stairs, play with your kids, park further away. And again, it just comes back to making conscious lifestyle choices, changes that force your body to adapt. Because NEAT, ironically, is where most of your calories get burned. NEAT does the heavy lifting. If you're hitting 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day, you'll burn hundreds, yes, hundreds more calories every single day. And when you combine that with cleaning up your diet and intentionally creating a calorie deficit, the fat is going to melt off of you faster than you can even believe. But of course, we don't just want to lose the fat without building the physique. When it comes to your training though, you don't want chaos, you want structure. And I'm going to keep banging this drum, maybe more so now than ever as I get a little bit older, that less is actually more here. 3 full body, 30 to 45 minute sessions a week is more than enough, as long as you go into them with the right intention and the right structure. So you want to focus on getting really good at 6 to 8 compound movements. Now, if you don't know what compound movements are, they're the exercises that use multiple joints in your body and the biggest muscles. Fewer exercises, because not only are exercises, but they are also skills and they take time to get better at, but it also means you're going to waste less time moving between machines in the gym. Time that you can now spend doing more reps and more sets. And as a result, burning more calories. But you also want to make sure that you're lifting with lighter weight so that you can control the movement and avoid any injuries. And last, but definitely not least, you want to make sure that you're tracking your lifts and aiming to progressively overload. If I really had to whittle it down to an old school tweet where you got like 60 characters or whatever it was, I would say the key to fat loss and building the body that you want comes down to calorie deficit and progressive overload. If you can understand those two concepts, everything else falls underneath that. So the calorie deficit, eating fewer calories than you are burning. Progressive overload, where over time you are increasing the amount of volume that you are lifting. Volume being the number of reps that you are doing, the weight that you are lifting, and the number of sets that you are doing multiplied by together. If you increase that number over time and you sustain that calorie deficit, you're going to lose the body fat and build the aesthetic physique that you want. But I would be remiss to not tell you about the final piece of the puzzle, because you could nail your diet, you could crush your training, you could hit your steps, but if your sleep sucks, you're fighting uphill, because sleep is the secret weapon that nobody talks about. It's not sexy. It doesn't get clicks on YouTube, but poor sleep cranks up your hunger hormones, kills your testosterone, lowers your motivation, and just makes fat loss 10 times harder than it needs to be. So even if your diet is on point, which is going to be harder because of what I just said about cravings, it counts for nothing without your sleep. Sleep isn't a nice to have, it's the foundation of your health. And as I've coached more guys myself and gotten older myself, I've really come to realize this. So cut the screen time before bed, black out your room, and cut out the caffeine after midday. Again, like everything, it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be better than it is right now. Because if we look at the law of averages, the average guy is walking less than 30,000 steps a week and sleeping less than 6 hours a night. And what's really crazy, let's say that 10,000 people watch this video. 5,000 of them are doing less than that. So before you reach for the latest, greatest supplement, focus on nailing the basics. I hate the phrase eat less, move more, because I think it's overly simplified. But what I prefer to say is eat intentionally and move strategically. And like I said, if you do all of this, and I don't think anything I've said is revolutionary or too complicated, you can expect to lose 10 to 15 pounds in just the next 6 to 8 weeks. The coolest part about losing that weight though isn't even the weight loss itself. It's the belief that you build within yourself. It's the momentum that it gives you. It helps you to realize that if I can do this, what else can I do? It changes your phrasing from, I wonder if I can do that, to I wonder when I'm going to do that. And honestly, once you've built these habits, the hard part is done. The next battle isn't physical, it's entirely mental. Because at some point, and it's different for everybody, maybe week 6, maybe week 12, progress will slow. And this is where most guys panic, quit, jump ship, and want to try something new. They get what I call SOS, shiny object syndrome. But the truth is, nothing's broken. You're just entering the boring part. But this is what separates the winners from the losers. This is when true discipline comes into the equation. The part where the flywheel is still turning, but it doesn't feel quite so dramatic anymore. You're not getting as much stimulus and dopamine as you were at the beginning. And what makes it even worse is you don't get the results that you feel like you deserve at this stage. Everyone has heard of someone who's become an overnight success, right? Well, the truth is that's what everybody goes through, because the compound effect has to be unlocked, but it's not unlocked until the very end. So you get this nothing, everything. And this is where patience becomes your biggest weapon. So when it slows down, which it will, don't deviate. And if you want to avoid the emotional roller coaster, just track your data, your weight, your macros, your sleep, your water, your lifts in the gym. Because when you've got that data, you can stay objective. You can zoom out and see the trend over a longer time horizon, not just day to day, because fat loss is never linear. There will be spikes, stalls, drops, and plateaus. So don't take it personally, just take it seriously, and never be swayed by what someone else who isn't doing what you're doing is saying. Remember, hate will always come from underneath. People will project their insecurities onto you because they feel like you must be cheating because they can't do what you're doing. And the last thing I would say is that you don't want to focus on the outcome, because the outcome that you think you want right now, whether it's a goal body weight or a body fat percentage, I promise you it isn't the outcome. The outcome that you think you want is actually a little bit of a mirage. If you follow this plan, you will get that original outcome and you'll be happy for about 5 minutes. But then it's human nature. You'll want something else. It's why we're always upgrading our iPhones every year, even when they barely change. If you focus on speed, you'll start looking for shortcuts. And that's when you're going to get thrown off track. You're going to start starving yourself and chasing scale weight instead of body composition. So don't focus on the outcome, because frankly, it isn't the outcome. And if you focus on the outcome, it feels like hard work. It sounds a little bit cheesy, but you really want to find the joy in the journey. And that is where data can really help, because you can see the small wins. And whatever you do not cherry pick the bits that you like the look of and ignore the bits that look a little bit hard. You don't get shredded by doing 80% of this plan. 80% effort equals 80% results, and you're not going to be happy with that. Trust me. You either pay the physical price in effort now, or you pay the mental price in guilt later. And if that feels hard, just flip the perspective. Think about it. You get to do this. You get to eat better. You get to train. You get to take back control of your own life. I said this to a client of mine yesterday. If I was to cut off your arms and your legs, all you would want to do is go to the gym. You would want that chance to do the very thing that you're avoiding right now. So take advantage and keep that flywheel spinning. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, then I recommend you check out this one next, because the chances are you're going to enjoy that one too. I'll see you soon.